Hey guys, it's Nikki from Still Moments Nursery. I just thought I'd show you how I weight my limbs on my Reborn dolls and what I use. So what I've got is I've got a kit here that I've just finished painting, and I've done the varnish on the nails, so it's already dried and it's ready for weighting. And I've got 2 plugs, so these are actually available now individually, so I'll have them available on the website very soon. I've got a couple of these coming. So I've got one for the leg and I've got one for the arm. I've also got my tiny glass beads. These are the glass beads that are smaller than the larger glass beads. These ones will actually go through your stockings, so don't use these in the bodies. So there you go, you can sort of see it's just like sugar. Probably a little bit more like caster sugar, I'd say. And I've also got, well, I'm also going to show you how I make a little funnel. I grab just a normal A4 piece of paper, I'll fold it in half, and then you're just going to make just a little funnel. And what you're trying to do is you want a big sort of area at the top, so when you're pouring in your glass beads, it's not going to spill over the sides. But you're also wanting on the bottom is a fine, just a small hole, so you've got control over when you're sort of putting that bit into the limb. So once you're happy with the size of your little hole at the bottom, just sort of work it around until you're sort of happy and make your funnel. And then what you just need to do is just get a little bit of sticky tape and just sticky tape the bottom there. And probably another one at the top, just so it just doesn't open up while you're putting your beads in. And that's the little funnel that I use to put the glass beads into my limbs. And it just helps, like I said, to avoid any spills or anything like that. So I'll show you how I weight the arm first. When I do weight them, I'll half fill them. So I'll put my funnel in just like that, and I'll hold it with the 2 fingers at the top. And then I'll just sort of grab just sort of half a cup, because I only want to fill half the limb to start with. And then just gently pour in just sort of half the amount, and then just gently tap to sort of work all the beads down into all those little gaps that's in the hand. And you can sort of gently sort of just push on the vinyl just like that to sort of work it in. You can sort of hear it if it needs any tapping. And just tap it down just to make sure it's all in, because you don't want it ruffling around once you've put on your fluff. You don't want to hear it sort of running up and down the arm. And then once you've done that, just a little bit more. And you'll sort of want to fill it up to about there, and then the rest will be filled up with your fluff, and then the plug will be put in top to just to sort of stop the glass beads from seeping out. And then you want to just tap it down again to make sure they're all sort of in their spots. And then you want to sort of have it about sort of that full. So you've got enough room to put in your fluff and enough room to put in the plug. And then you get your fluff. And I sort of roll it into like a tight ball, just by working it sort of in your hands like that, just folding it over and sort of getting it into more of like a tight ball. And then what I'm going to do is just sort of poke that down into the limb on top of those tiny glass beads. And you want to make sure you've got enough fluff in there too, so when you push on it like this, it's not going to actually collapse all the way in. You want it to be a little bit firm, and that way it's actually not going to come out of the cable tie as well. So I'm going to need just a little bit more in there, because I can sort of push my thumb in just a little bit. So I'll just grab a little bit more. But this time what I'm going to do, because the cap has got a and is empty, sort of in the cavity, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little bit of fluff, and I'm just going to poke that down into that cavity. You sort of want it fairly compacted in there, so try and sort of put it as much as you can in before you put it into the limb. It's just a matter of sort of poking it in with your fingers and your thumb. And then what I normally do is I'll sort of just pinch it like that, and then I can just place one sort of side on it, and then just sort of roll it, as well as poking in the fluff as you're sort of pushing it in, and then it should just sit in nicely. And sort of just work it around and make sure that that's going to sort of sit in, and move your little glass beads around just to sort of make sure that everything's sort of sitting in there right. And if it's sticking out a little bit like that, just simply take that off, but catch what you've put in, because you don't want to lose that. Then just take out a little bit of the fluff from the middle. Just like that, and then poke that back down. And then just put in your plug again. It's just a matter of playing around until you can sort of get it flat and the way you want it, and you want to make sure that it's actually quite firm here. But once you actually put the limb or the arm onto the body with the cloth joint at the top, because you're going to put fluff in it as well, it's actually going to put a lot of pressure down on that, and sort of help hold that into place anyway. So you can sort of leave it up a little bit like that. You can glue it down if you like, but I generally will put it in my dolls like this, because the fluff will actually sort of flatten out over time as well. So a little bit more at the beginning is always sometimes a little bit better as well. And now with the limb, with the leg, I'm going to again just fill it halfway, because I want to make sure I get all those glass beads down into the toes, because I don't want to, if you sort of tip it upside down, you don't want to hear those glass beads moving around. So again, I'm just going to put my funnel just down into his limb. Make sure it's nice and secure, because you don't want that falling out, because you'll have glass beads everywhere. And then what you're going to do is just gently pour in just enough so you can sort of tap it down into the foot. Sort of tap it down, and as you can hear those glass beads going down into the leg. You can actually hear it as well going into those toes, which is good, which is where you want it. So you're just tapping it down, making sure those glass beads in the toes and in the foot to start with. Because if you fill it up, like if you fill it all the way up with your glass beads, it will be hard to move the glass beads down in the lower of the leg. So I find if you do it just a little bit by little bit, it helps. And that way you're not going to have any areas of your doll that's going to be moving around. And if your hole's actually a little bit small like mine is, and it's taking a while for the glass beads to go in, just simply cut off the bottom, just to make your hole just a little bit bigger. And that way you're not sort of sitting here waiting for the glass beads to filter through. And then you're just going to fill up the leg. Again, you're only wanting it 3/4, because you want that room to put in your fluff and the cap. Always give it a good tap just as you put in your glass beads, just to make sure they're all sitting in where they're supposed to. And I need a little bit more just in the top of the leg, just up the top. So what I normally do is, because the leg's on the side like this, I'll just tip it onto the side just like that, and then I'll fill up just a little bit more. And then just tap that down. Okay, that gives a nice weight to that leg, which is good. And then I'm going to get my fluff again. I'm just going to work it into that tight sort of ball, and then just poke it in on top of my glass beads. You don't want to poke too hard because sometimes you will actually poke and the glass will come up out again, so just don't poke too hard until you're sort of getting enough fluff in there to hold down your glass beads. Just sort of work it around, sort of compact it just a bit more. And then just poke that in. And again, you want it to be sort of fairly firm, because when you put in the plug, you don't want it to sort of be nice and squishy at the top. You want it to be sort of fairly firm. So just make sure you've got enough fluff in there. A little bit more at the top. And then again, you want to just put some fluff into that empty cavity of the plug just before you put it in. And if you've actually got too much fluff in your limb already, you can just sort of half fill that and then just sit that on top. And then I normally just poke that fluff up into that cavity, just like that. And then you can just push the plug into the limb. And if you just hold it sort of in place and just wiggle the leg upside down, you can hear if you haven't sort of filled it enough, and if you need to sort of move any glass beads around like I am. But that seems to be working good, and I'm quite happy with the weight of those. So they're nice. They're going to be nice and floppy on the baby. Okay guys, so that's how I weight my limbs on my Reborn dolls, using the little funnel that I made and my tiny glass beads. I hope you thought it was interesting and useful, and I would love to hear your comments in the comments bar. But yeah guys, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon, and I'll have a new tutorial up for you very soon. But thanks guys for watching. Bye!